still doing battle. Just getting these bolts out of the ring in here, down to the last two. There's one at the bottom that I don't know how I'm going to get at. I've got this one at the top, so hopefully dislodging him will do us a favour. There he is, bent, bruised, battered. I know the feeling. I can feel we've got a bit of movement, but even so, still going to have to get that bottom bolt out. And in keeping with every other old bolt on here, she's rock solid. That's done it. We should be able to lift this off now and end this heavy duty evening of carnage. Right, hope your back's in good order, everybody. Right, here we go. Overall in pretty good order. We're obviously not without a few challenges for the next round, but overall a good evening's work, pretty good. Right, it's raining cats and dogs out there this evening. This is the offside brake bracket that we took off last night. It's the one that's still got the slack adjuster on it and the adapter plate for the interlock chamber. We'll get on to interlock chambers later on. I want to do the same as we've done to the other side, which is to remove these bolts, get the cam out, obviously get the slack adjuster off. That's the first job. We need to set this bracket up so that we can drill out some of these back plate bolts that have snapped off. I've managed to tap 3 out, so that means we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to go at. But anyway, let's get the slack adjuster off, let's get the cam out, let's try and get this bracket off and get some stuff ready for paint and ready for reassembly. We've got to keep going here. It's like I keep saying it, but it is definitely a production line. You've got to keep going. If you haven't got bits cycling through on your production line, the job stops. So let's keep going. First job is to get this bolt out of here. As you can see, we've got all this hardened grease in there, and obviously that will prevent us getting a socket on. So we've just got to clean it out so we can get the socket on, get the impact gun on it. So we've had the slack adjuster soaking in some diesel for the last, I suppose, hour or so. We've been and had a bit of tea. Very nice. And what I've also been doing is making a bolt to centre the puller on. I don't want to bray this slack adjuster to get it off because I want to use it again. It's going to be a difficult one to replace. So what we've done now, we've been in the old bolt stock and fully threaded this bolt. So it only came halfway, so we've got it a full thread so that we can use the back of that nut. And then also I've had it in the lathe, and you can see there I've drilled into the end, and that's so the point on the puller has somewhere to sit, and hopefully that should help locate everything. Good soaker diesel, because everything benefits from a soaker diesel. So I put a flat washer on as well because we've got room. So we look like we've got a decent bite of it there now with the puller. I'll make sure I've got them feet under well enough. Let's give it a couple of blips, see what it does. That's bringing it. Worth the messing about. Camshaft looks in good order and we've not damaged anything. So all in all, that's a good result, isn't it? Bolts come out great. End of the camshaft isn't damaged. Slack adjusters survived without being battered to death. So yeah, great, all good. Let's get all that stripped. I think we'll put that bolt in the box with the puller for further use. Just surprising, just having that bit of a centre in there was different. Well, that's moved it. Unfortunately, we're going to have to be a bit brute here, but it's only a, you know, it's only a washer. It's I don't know, maybe 5/16. If it comes to it, we can knock one up out of a lump of pipe, can't we? Something. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to be a bit brute. It's just a pity we've had to do it that way, but after the length of time it's been on there, it's hardly surprising. So you can put this glove on. There we go. That'll live again. Wants a clean up, but it'll live again, that. Grand. But again, an outstanding camshaft, that's not bad at all. Get a little bit of water penetration down here, but obviously well greased. Grand. What's not to like there? Okay, so we're taking off this adapter plate now. All of this bracket would have been made at the Foden factory in Sandbach, but this original bracket would have been geared up for the S39 and all of those models previous. They would have had a transmission handbrake and therefore would have relied on a service brake chamber here, which just operated off the foot pedal. This adapter plate and that cranked slack adjuster that we saw earlier on is due to and fit in the interlock brake chamber, which was a larger unit and required a bit more space. So let's get this off. We're going to use it come what may, whether we go back to interlock or whether we upgrade to or change to spring brake. .5/8 UNF bolt, or is it? We'll ask David, he might know. Lovely. There you go, and you can see that that grease seal's been fitted in correctly. I've got to build up a grease behind it. Grease should be coming this way, could go that way, and it's all a bit greasy and gnarly down there. So, you know, if you do it wrong, you're going to be pumping grease onto your brake linings. Right, we need to get this camshaft tube off now. Probably a job for tomorrow night, that. Right, so we're going to get these studs drilled out next, and the first one we're going to do here is down this bottom corner. Managed to find a relative centre. We've got one out already, so that was pretty easy, that one, to be fair. So let's see how we do here. So we've drilled a hole in this block of wood to allow, you know, it's about, I don't know, 18-inch of threaded bar. We've put a couple of nuts and a couple of flats on there, and obviously we've got this lump of 2B1 with a slot cut in it to give us some movement on the pillar drill. We're centred up on that hole there. It's a bit mangled from the other side, so what I'm going to try and do is push right the way through, follow it with a 6.5mm, which is there or thereabouts, for cutting a 5/16 thread. Lovely. Great stuff. So I'm going to swap the drills over, stick the 6.5mm through that. Right, so we've got that bigger drill in now that's thread size, thread tapping size. Lovely. That's gone through perfect. Right, I've got it back on the drill stand, turned it the other way up. I'm going to reassemble from this side with us fixing so that we can just chase that thread up. So having the fixture out here in this bit of space means that we can use this larger tap wrench and just have a bit more control over applying some even pressure and getting it started. Remember, we're hoping to pick up on an old thread here and chase the remnants of that bolt out. Nearly there now, just letting it go through under more or less its own weight. That's the second drill through. Here we go. Through the bolt. So it gives us options now. We can try collapsing the thread and punching it. We can try a bigger drill and tapping it, or we could just go for trying to extract it, which, looking at it, probably my least favourite option at the moment because it's so central. I'm tempted just to put the tap drill through it. Right, let's bang a thread in. Bit of oil. That don't feel like it's cutting so bad. We need the bolt hole in there. It's not mega precision, this. It's only to hold a piece of sheet metal on, isn't it? So let's get the holes tapped out and stamped in and job done. Right, we're just going to attempt to take some big cuts out of this back one. Right, we've got that 6.5mm in now. I'm going to see if I can just drive him straight in and chase him with a tap. Right, that's us done. I've got the big drill in. I don't know, it's probably about a 12 or 14. Just wanted to break the edges on these just to make it a little easier when we do the final fitment and what have you. Plus, you're not going to pull a thread if you just break that edge, are you, as well? Lovely. Get this ready for paint next. Right, so we've got the bracket done. All those holes are drilled. We've got all the threads in there. So I'm going to put this to one side. Will need to be cleaned up. You don't need to see that. and we'll obviously paint that. So the next job is the back plates, and the reason the back plates are so urgent, or next in the line, is that of course they're one of the first things that get fitted. So we're going to fit the back plate to the bracket and then refit it to the axle. That's got to be done before you can think about brake shoes and fitting the hub. So it's important we get these done, even though it feels like it's in the wrong sort of order. Both the back plates are in pretty poor order, but this one is the better of the two. And the reason it's the better of the two is it has more or less a complete inner outline. Both of them are reasonably good on the outside. Also, you've noticed they've got this hole. This must be something that's been put in by one of the previous operators, because if you look closely you can see that they're actually drill holes. So if somebody's drilled and cut that, the hole isn't particularly good. This I can only assume is to let out oil if the hub seal goes, but the flange comes inwards, so it's always been knocked in from outside. So this is the one we're going to start with. As you can see, she's not in the best of shape. I haven't made my mind up quite how we're going to do that yet. I'm thinking we might do that in 3 sort of sections. Maybe 1, 2, 3. I don't know yet. And then obviously do the other side. Might just do 1 section. Don't know yet. We're going to have a way up. Got a decent sheet of tin. The first job is to get that cleaned up, and then this one, which is our best sample, is going to go on one side. On my sheet of top quality tin, I've obviously cleaned up this corner and roughed out an oversized outline of what we actually need. So the next job is to cut that out, and then we won't use all of this. We'll cut sections of it as and where we need, but we've got a really good template there when that's done as well. Good show. Right, so we've got our repair panel cut, if we want to call it a repair panel. That's his basic outline, and we've got his 2 datum points here. Now looking at the actual back plate, we're going to do this half first, which I think is actually the top section. So my template, I'm interested from there across to here. So if I put it on, lining up my 2 holes, I roughly know that if I cut a straight line at that mark and that mark, that'll give me the section I actually need. We've dropped us patching. We're not worried about this because we're going to trim that later. No point trimming stuff off before you really need to. Gives us room to work. We've managed to bang an hole through there using the old back plate as a template and another one there. The reason these aren't done is they're currently non-existent. We've tacked the plate over the top, and now we're going to go round, we're going to weld down this edge, cut as we go. You can see here we've got that nice and level. Let's get this spanner. So there's no bump there. Here we've not dropped it in yet, it's welded to the surface. Now back in the day, you know, certainly in the late 80s when we were oxyacetylene welding, this always felt like a, you know, a bit of a bodge, a bit of a shortcut, you know, not really what the professionals did. However, there's a few people on YouTube now that actually, you know, go with this method. Chief amongst them, of course, is Fritzy with his cut and butt, or whatever he calls it, or button cut, I don't know what he calls it now. Anyway, but certainly not at the standard that guy's at. But either way, the next job is to weld down here, cut as we go, push this in, and obviously as we go we'll be cutting out the old section. Right, so we're stitched in, so you can see that we've cut all the way round from the other side, and this is now, you know, hanging off. One bit's already dropped off, which isn't really surprising. It's that piece there, so that's going in the bag. But you can see straight away we've got our material in place now, and this stuff just wants, as you can see, we've got some movement in that. She's come off. There we go. We're going to clean this up now with the flat disc, both sides, and stitch it in all the way around. That'll give us a really solid repair. So, you know, all in all, you know, we've got that worried now. Right, okay, so we've got this lump of tin in there now, and this is where I'm making my excuses. Obviously, we're dealing with some pretty thin tin in places, so yeah, we've blown through a bit, but we've yet to clean up. If my brother's watching, yes, I've got an air rifle, and no, I don't need any more pellets, thank you very much. Right, so we've got that first half of this one done. So there's a new sheet of tins in here. You can faintly see the lines. Obviously, this isn't something that's going to be easily seen, so we don't need to do a lot more than what we've done there. Right, we've got the back plates done. They've come out reasonably well. We've managed to stitch them in pretty seamlessly. Obviously put some, I don't know what you'd call them, tabs over the holes, some strengtheners, because some of the original holes aren't great. The back gives you a good indication of what we've added to it. Always surprising the amount of steel you take out. That bit you might recognise. Bottom of the other one. Yeah, there's the other one. So yeah, quite a bit of steel. But yeah, overall, they've come out pretty well, haven't they? Right, well, it's obviously been Red Week. Did these last night. I have increased the capacity of the bally bar because we just weren't getting enough items painted in one go. So we've done pretty well now. Put these extra bits and bobs on, just scabbed them together, and it's given us a much higher productivity rate. So what we're trying to do here, this is one of the studs for the cam carrier. So what I'm trying to do now is get this nut off. Now obviously we're not going to build the, we're not going to fit these studs, we're not going to build this up with these studs in this condition. We're going to dine up all the studs and tap out the bracket. Right, so we've got 5 of the studs fitted. Just going to clean out the threads on this one. As you can see, the studs come up really well, as have the others. So I'm just going to put a bit of this lock and seal on them. It will mean at some point if they ever need to come out, they can do. It's all done and dusted. There we go, there's his nut, we've cleaned him up. So all that'll assemble really nice, that will. Again, when we build it up, we'll put the camshaft carrier in, build them up with some lock and seal on the threads. Not going to build it up now, going to build it up when we start to do the assembly. Next job is to get these 5/16 cleaned up. Now, I've got the clamp bracket in place that we used on the pillar drill, just to hold it in place while we thread these, or not thread them but chase the threads out. It's only got paint in them, but even so, might as well have them cleaned up properly. before we attempt to get the bolts in. Lovely. Now obviously we've not bodyworked this back plate. It's pretty much as it was after we repaired it and took the rust out of it. You won't see it, it's behind a spring. You know, we need to be getting on. We haven't got time to start bodyworking this up as though it's going to be seen like the cab is. When we get to air tanks that are hanging on the outside of the chassis, and flitch plates and light brackets and cabs and catwalks and Susie rails and all the rest of it that will be seen, that's where we'll put a bit more effort into making sure the metal's perfectly flat. Lovely. I think we can live with that, can't we? So that'll do us for this evening. It's just gone 8 o'clock. I've got my dog to walk yet, so that's next job. So this is the second of the backplate arrangements. So we've got them both now bolted on. As you can see, we've put a little bit of paint on those studs just to make it pretty for when Kevin goes for a look. So we've got the cam carrier studs in, but annoyingly the very last one I got to, I ended up having to cut the nut off. So it was in such a state that I've ended up having to cut the nut off. The bolt or the stud itself just isn't usable. You can see there's a mark where we've put the angle grinder into it. So I've got a bolt, and we're obviously going to make ourselves a stud out of bolt to the original dimensions, so we'll come back to that in a bit. I want to get the clamping bracket off. Get that back out of the way, and chip me paint, that'll be great, that. And we can flip this over and get the studs in for the brake shoes next. And we're obviously going to make ourselves a new stud, so I suppose really that's next job. You might remember on these studs, one end's shorter or one end's longer than the other. So to get this stud to work for us, we're going to have to thread that to the shorter length, and then either way we're going to cut this side down, we're going to cut that side down to the longer length, and that will give us the shoulder in the middle, which should give us the correct dimensions we need. Right, we've made a stud. Cleaned up the end. There's nothing more ugly than axle marks on the end of your bolt, is there? And then we've domed that one off so it replicates the original. So I think that's come out pretty well. So we'll just get it fitted. Super. So we're ready to flip this over now, but you'll also notice that we've got 3-4 of the mounting bolts in that mount the bracket to the axle. This bolt is one that was bent during the removal process, and obviously we can't reuse that, it's had it. but fortunately we only knackered 2 bolts, so quite a result that. I expected a few more of them being in a poor way, but actually we only ruined 2. There's the other one. Great stuff. Right, well, we've got the back plates finished now, the brackets are finished. The cam carrier brackets have come out well. We've got the hardware in. That one's got 6 bolts for the mounting bracket onto the axle, that one's got 4, we need another 2 of them. Right, on with the diff.